All right. So today we're supposed to be doing the Prac 3, and I'm supposed to be discussing that with you guys, and showing you guys some stuff that you guys did wrong. Is there anything you guys have any specific questions with regards to? I see there's two more people joining, so before I start showing code or dissecting the question paper, if there's any specific questions regarding the practical, please let me know now, so that we can discuss those things quickly while these people are joining. So raise a hand if you have a question, yes or no. Okay, so you guys have no questions. All right, that's cool. I'm just gonna start up Visual Studio and stuff in the meantime. If you guys do think of any questions, you're more than welcome to send it in the chat or raise your hand and unmute your mic when I tell you to. I am more than happy to listen to your questions and help with that's what I'm here for. I'm literally being paid for this. So please ask as many questions as you can, ask as many questions as you want. I promise I'm going to do my best to answer them. All right, let's get this started quickly. That in silent. Okay, let's see. So one of the things I did notice. Okay, let me just open it up at least so that we can actually talk about it. I'll open up the question paper also. All right, today I'm a little bit more unorganized than usual. I woke up a little bit late. Happens to the best of us. So at least I made it on time for the practical, in time for the touch, right? Where is it? Practicals. All right, let's share screen. Ooh, did I see a question here? Hi, I have a question. I'll have questions once I see code. All right, fair enough. I'm hoping you guys can see this and it's a little bit clear. I'm basically just looking at the practical right now, so we can look at it and decide what we're actually going to do, and so that you guys know how to decide what you're going to do in future. Because I've noticed that a lot of you guys are still not really reading the questions. A lot of you guys did weird things with these averages and these averages of weights. And a lot of you guys really didn't read well enough to draw your UML, and that's a bit of a problem, right? If you can't extract what you need to build a UML for the practical, then you're probably not reading the practical very well. On that note, one of the things I must say, while you design your UML, right, you must keep in mind that a class is supposed to encapsulate all of the data about some object that you're modeling. When I say some object, I mean like a real life object or a real life thing, right? For example, I can I'm done with it when I try to save a practical the one from previous year, right? Override it. All right, I'll actually send this question to Mr. Cottrell directly. I have no control over Eve, right? Unfortunately, I have absolutely no control over how Eve works. If you tell me that you're in my group and I marked you weirdly or something like that, I can deal with that. But other than that, please, if you can directly message me your student number and stuff, so I can take that down and try and look that up for you and figure out what's happening there. DM me though, so I won't open it now because we're recording the session, and this is gonna go onto YouTube. So try and DM me that so that your details remain private. You know, you're an IT guy now, so you're a girl. I don't know, light pole, whatever. But you have to keep your details private. That's really important, right? So essentially, what so where was I? What is it talking about? I was talking about how UMLs encapsulate the data about some object, because remember in software you have to model objects, right? So you're recording data about some object that's in the real world, something that's tangible, or something that's some kind of information about a unique thing, right? So this thing that you're modeling has, like, for example, a name, a height, a width, a weight, or whatever the case might be, right? That's information about that thing. And then when you take that information, you can then do some stuff on that information. You can calculate the changes in weight. You can calculate the changes in height as it grows. You can calculate what it weighs in space. Like those different calculations that you can run on the data to get some more valuable information. Those are operations that you can run on that data that belong to that data, right? For example, if I want to calculate my average weight over the last 6 months, I want to be able, it should be in the class that belongs to me. Like, you don't calculate person one's dot weight and then you average it in the form, right? That's how you did it with the record structures. If we were doing that, why not just use record structures, right? So you want to encapsulate and put all of the operations that are available to be used on some data along with that data inside a class, and you want to give it the name of the thing it's modeling, right? I think that's really important for you guys to remember when you're dealing with classes. Also, just to answer quickly, why might you want to work with a class? Firstly, it makes your code modular. You can update the class without having to update the form. I'm sure you guys have realized, right? So if you fix stuff in the class, nothing goes wrong with the form, and nothing changes with the form unless you change the function signatures, right? So that's really important. It's modular. And when you splitting work between your teammates, you guys do have a team project coming up, right? So when you guys are splitting work between your teammates, you want to ensure that you split it in the way that when you put everything back together, it works really nicely. It really, 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 really works nicely, right? So essentially, what you want to do is when you're working on this when you're working on a practical as a group, you want to try and split everything up according to classes, so that each person is maybe doing a class, or each person debugs a class or something like that, so that so that they can bring the class to the code and everybody can just plug that together and it works, because you know what functions they have in their class, you know what data they're encapsulating with those functions. You never mess with that data, so you never break the class. You always handle things through the property methods, right? Another thing that you guys need to know before we continue is what a property method is, right? Property method, essentially in code, it allows you access to one of the variables that you declared, or one of the state members that you declared, right? So essentially what you're doing is you're controlling how people access the internal state of that class, or that object in actual fact, because classes don't have an internal state. Classes are a blueprint of an object, and an object, well, that is an instance of a class, right? So essentially what you're trying to do is when you make property methods, what you're doing is you're controlling how the programmer who gets your class accesses the variables that you've declared, right? So in the getters and setters, you can return maybe if you want to return name as a string, or you want to return weight as a string for displaying purposes, then you can do that, right? You can set that's how you can create those property methods to do that. The same way with setting, you can validate the stuff that gets set, right? I see some of you actually did that in the practical, where you guys looked at it and said, well, weight can't be negative and weight can't be above, say, 600 kgs or whatever the case might be. And so we'll make sure that the person uses our class correctly. All right, so we have a question here that says, I'm struggling with the method we should create in the class so I can use the form to calculate the average and the total. Okay, we'll get to that when we get to the code, but yes, essentially you should have that method in the class, because it's calculating like the average and the total weights of the person, right? So just be careful of that, okay? Um, so one of the things that was really important was this little paragraph here, right? What should be displayed? Now, when you're a software engineer, you need to listen to your client. You need to listen to the people who talk to you and tell you what you're supposed to do in the project, right? Your project should display the following information. For each client, it will need to display the client's name, right? That's really, really important. That means you can't set up the grid before you have the client's name, right? A lot of you fell for that trap, and maybe your marker took it easy on you, but essentially you should have lost marks for that because you didn't follow instructions, right? The weight entered for each week, as well as the average weight and the total weight gain, right? So those two are self-explanatory, and then obviously you should calculate the average weight for all the people, right? All right, so one of the things you guys need to really look at here in the design in UML to make sure I'm 100% doing it correctly. So I don't have a UML on hand that I can show you, right? But I can quickly try and make one if you'd like me to. It shouldn't take me too long. Do you guys want me to make a quick UML? Yes. Okay. Cool. I'll quickly go over. UML. All right. Just the thing that you guys might not have caught you while I'm still on this before I close this, because I'm gonna close the practical once we're done reading it, right? Maybe I'll keep it open and check against this. But essentially, what you want to do is it says the average weight gain, right? The average weight gain. So that means it's not the average of all of the weights of the weeks, right? It's the average weight gained in each week. Okay. That's something really important to think about. That means if I gain 5 in the first week and I gain 5 in the second week, I mean, let's say I start off at 100, right? And then I gain 5 in the first week and then I gain 5 in the second week, right? So I'm at 110 at the end. And your program tells me the average weight gain was 3.33333, right? That's wrong. Essentially, your marker might have taken it easy on you, but essentially that's the wrong way to do it. Because think about it, I gained 5 and then I gained 5. So why isn't it telling me that the average I gained was 5, right? Essentially what you guys did there was you averaged the weights and the weights for every week and not the weight gain. So that's a really that's a small trick that was put there to probably confuse you just a little bit. But yeah, it's a really fun practical. Now let's try and do a quick UML diagram, right? My favorite thing to use is Lucidcharts. You're welcome to just use Paint if that's something you really like using, right? It's 100% up to you. Lucidcharts is essentially it's blocked, so you shouldn't be having more than 10 documents. In order to circumvent that, I have a lot of pages in my 10 documents, as you can see, which is not the best. Oh damn, I can't even use any of these. All right, so we'll make another plan. We'll use Paint. Paint sounds like a plan. I don't know when they got so strict in Lucidchart. They weren't like that before. Paint is nasty to work with now that I think about it. Is there no? Do I not have Do I not have omelets? Do I not have omelets? 1 second. All right, let's just do. This is gonna take way too long, but let me quickly search for omelet. Yeah, the search bar is nasty. Info, spoon site 3. Could be here. And it is not. It is not here. Alright. Fine. I don't have UML yet. UML is one of my favorite tools to use offline. So when you don't have access to the internet, often we would ask for it to be with us in the actual practical test on campus, right? So I'm just gonna do a quick UML then. I don't like using Paint. I'm not a fan. So the first thing we'll need is obviously some rectangle shape to make the whole thing. We'll need one with a border at the top, and then we'll need to write some stuff. So let's write some stuff first. That's a bit huge. Let's bring it down to 16. Nope, it's still too big. Let's go 12. That should be fine. The class we're gonna call it science, right? Oh damn, that's huge writing. Please don't hand in something that looks like this. I will be appalled. Right? That's not a great way to write things. Next person. So firstly, remember I told you that you control access to your property, you control access to the internal state, right? So if we're declaring variables at the beginning, one of the first things we need to do is make them all, essentially, we need to make them private. So there's three kinds of symbols that you can use. There's private, there is public, and there is protected. You don't need to care about protected right now, right? All you care about, like, is private and public, right? Those are called access modifiers. There's a big difference between access modifiers and scope of a variable, right? It's important that you look at the lectures and understand what the difference between those two things is. If I was a lecturer making exams, I would 100% ask you what the difference between those two things is. So yeah, so essentially, look at what the difference between a access modifier and and variable scope. What's the difference between those two ideas? You also draw UML by hand on paper. Yes, you can. I actually prefer drawing them by hand also, if possible. It's just easier, it's quicker. I would have been done by now. But here we are in Paint. Please just use a please send a clear picture or take a clear scan of it, right? So a readable scan. That's really important. I need to see readability there. I need to be able to see it and mark it, because this is essentially the first step of your planning towards your program. Okay, so we know it. The person needs name, and I do. Wait, I'm just gonna make sure I'm doing this correctly, because last time I did it incorrectly. The way in which it's supposed to be done. Let's bring this over here. I'm too stressed about that. It's been a while since I did a UML class diagram. So, like properly at Informatics 1 level. So just forgive me for that. Let's just get that out there quickly. All right, cool. So, yes, I am doing it correctly. It does go name and then string. Here we can put oh, it needs to be bigger. Okay, so we've got name, we can have age. Age is a good integer to use. I like integers for age because you can't be 1.25 years old. You can, essentially, but nobody's going to ever enter that in a computer, right? There's, of course, there's Sheldon from Big Bang Theory. He might do something like that. But yeah, that's like 1% of people. Then we need gender. Gender's a bit virtual. Some people like it as Boolean. Those people get shouted at by gender rights activists. So try and keep it as a string, because you're a good developer who doesn't want to get shouted at by activists. As there's apparently more than a couple genders. I have no idea how many there are. Like I said, you could be a light bulb. It's up to you. It's up to us. Be what you want to be. Be whatever you want. Client weighted. So client weight, right? because we're looking at the weight of each client. So that's important, client weight. Right, but we're going to make this well, essentially for you guys, it should be like this, right? So the square brackets indicate an array, and we're making an array of double because you can be 4.5 kgs heavy. That's the thing. Right, so now we've got name, age, gender, and weight, right? I am a little bit specific in the way I do things, and I like to have total, right? I like to have total here, and I'm going to show you how important it is to have property methods and why they're so cool, right? So we're going to have total and we're going to have average, right? Average is going to be a double also because it's cool like that. And that's going to be our first block. Let's put our second block in. Right now in here, what we've got is we've got some functions, right? So essentially, we should have some methods down here, right? I'm not sure if you guys did the tags yet, but essentially the first tag you should have is constructor, right? Because every class, when you build an object, you need an instance of that class, right? Which means you need to have some new operator for that class. So essentially you want to have, this is public, right? You know why this is public? This is because people outside the class, you call it classes outside of this class here need to call the new operator. Because there's clients, right? Wait, let's name this properly. Let's name it VB style. If only I could just get it to pull down, then I could see, there we go. So in VB style, it's called new, and it takes in some n weeks, and we'll call it integer. Now, why does it take in the number of weeks? Well, you see this array in here, right? When we build a class, when we build an object, we need to allocate some space for this array. That's really important. So we need to instantiate, we need to redim it essentially. Right, a constructor, yes, there we go. It doesn't say for you don't have to do it on for Prac 3. Oh, okay, nice. At least you don't have to do it for future reference, right? So after constructors, we have property methods, right? And the way we do this is basically you're gonna go client weight, right? So I'm gonna do the important ones. Client weights. You can give it an index I, right? Which is an integer. It is gonna return a double. What that tells whoever's coding, it tells them, well, look, essentially, this is gonna give me a sum. So this is a getter, right? And this is gonna be a setter. Right, which returns void. And those of you doing comp-sci will know what void means. You should know what void means right now, actually. Yeah, it's not for me to judge people and what they know. I'm here to teach. So that's essentially how you draw a property method, right? And then afterwards, if you have other stuff, each one of these should have a property method. Every single name, age, gender, client, total, average, those should have property methods. Now, the reason total and average should have property methods in my example, you see, in my example, I've declared them as part of the internal state of this class. If you did not declare them as part of this internal state, you don't need to have them as property methods because that doesn't make sense. Why would I have a property method to control access to something that doesn't exist, right? What am I setting if I have a property method for that, right? You understand what I'm saying there, right? I'm hoping. Okay, so back to the functions. You can also just have methods, right? Methods. You can have that, and then essentially what you'll have is get something. Well, not get. You'd have do some fancy stuff that's not part of this. I modeled it so that the property methods do everything. If you modeled it so that you have to get the average at the bottom there, that's up to you. That's also, there's many ways to kill a cat. All right, so that's basically UML. Do you have any questions regarding UML? Please raise your hand now. So nobody has any questions. Wow, you guys are really, really smart people. I had so many questions when I saw this for the first time. But then again, you guys didn't see this for the first time now. You guys probably had to draw it already. Yes, please ask your question.
Oh, okay. So I see that for the method, it's not complete the UML. That's the only thing, because you have to put the function, because we're given a function to, so that the one that is going to help us with the total and average. That's what I wanted to add on. Otherwise, I'm fine.
Oh, the utility functions. All right,
Yeah.
so helper functions.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So, that's a very good point. I really appreciate that. Thank you for that. I was not gonna touch on that today.
Yeah. So
So
they
let me.
fall under the methods, right?
Yeah, they do. They
Okay.
definitely
Thank
do.
you, sir.
No problem. All right. So that was a really smart observation. What we're talking about there is something called utility methods that help you do stuff. So what we can do is we can make a private method called get total, right, which will actually do the total calculation for us. And it will return it so that we can just return that in our property. Makes our life really easy, right? So maybe we should do that. Because essentially, well, it doesn't really serve a purpose whether you do the get total or get average differently. Yeah, so there'll be situations where you need helper methods that you use for more stuff, but it's nice to learn how to do them. So we're doing private classes things here and private functions. So this should be a good experience, right? There we go. Now we've got a UML, and let's erase that. That's annoying. Ta-da! Here is our UML. Look, we've got some cool stuff. All right. So, any more questions about UML? I hope I answered that. Any questions about helper functions before we go into going to code things like real software engineer people's? No questions. Okay, that's pretty cool. I did not prepare a form today, but what we will do is we will start off with the class, because isn't that the one that's important right now? All right, so you go solution. Click here. You say add class. And we will name our class as we want it, clients. You'll get very good at doing this, adding classes. I'm gonna tell you, you're gonna. So remember to always have your information. I see a lot of you guys keep forgetting that, right? Keep having your information. So go like this, and then say my name is X, Y, and Z. Right, and you can just do that and put your name and stuff at the beginning of each class. Also remember option statements. Every class should have option statements, so we know that you're not disobeying any rules. Alright, so let's declare some local variables here. And then go private, right? Name is integer. Why would I do name as integer? I don't know. I'm not thinking really today. Private age as integer. Private weights as double. What else was left? Let's go look at our design quickly. We had age, gender, client, weights, total and average. Let's put those on there. private average as double private total weight as double, right? So these are local variables that stores info about a client. All right, now we need to do some property methods to make to modify access. Right, if you want to explain why each of these variables are here, you're more than welcome to. Nobody's gonna shout at you for that. As long as you're not wasting time over commenting, right? I always say more comments is better, as long as you're not wasting time. Because the more you explain to me, the easier it is for me to find you marks, right? And that goes for lecturers and markers as well. We're not as mean as you guys probably think we're being. So the more you tell us about what you thought, the more we can try and give you marks. Yeah. So I think there's a way to generate property methods. Let's see if I can show you something illegal. I know this is being recorded, so Prof. Lung will probably try and murder me and Mr. Van Westhuizen. But that's if they watch this. Right? If they don't watch this, nobody's gonna know. I can't really imagine where it is now. But I remember, and when I was in first year, I knew how to do some pretty cool stuff with Visual Studio. But I guess we can't do that right now. Property. Property name. Right? How do I do property methods again? I haven't done this in years. I didn't prepare. I'm sorry. I was supposed to prepare this morning and then I fell asleep. Property name as let's just I know it's a string. Let's investigate as we go. Right. This is how you do things if you don't know how to do things. Is where I am. So we're equal here today. Get it. Man, look at that. It did it for me. Visual Studio is a beast. Actually, we need an underscore, sir. Oh, thank you. Look at that. I did not know that, actually. Cool, thanks, guys. All right, so get name. What we're gonna return is return name, because that's what we do. And we'll mess up the beautiful indentation that happened there. Here we are going to say name equals value. Right. So we'll set those. Oh, this is really cool. Visual Studio does a lot of work for you. That's very cool. I don't know that. But I'm very lazy, so even though Visual Studio does a lot of work, I am going to probably copy and paste. Now this is for name, right? Property method. Let's just comment this quickly. Let's set name. We'll have age as integer. Right, and here we will return age, and here we shall have it age. So integer, the value should be an integer value because we're setting an integer. So age equals value. Well, that's not what I was talking about. There we go. That should be fine. This one gets and sets the age. It and sets the age, right? Now we got name, age. What else is left? We got name, age, weights. Average weights, total weights. So let's do average weight. So let's do the weights one at a time. gets and sets a weight. Right, and here we will do, this is like easy free marks. Visual Studio literally does it for you. Right, so for that weight, for us, weight, and implicitly convert from integer to double, but we don't want that. So I switch my highs and my e's, that's wrong. Still wrong? What did I do? What did I split it as? Oh, it's weights. Forget, this is the array. This one needs an index here. Right? That needs an index. Because we're returning one value. Oh, it's not I. Where's the problem with you? Strict alert, double, yeah, so this is this is supposed to be double. Right, there we go. And then we'll do you and you. What we can do here is we can say weights index equals to value, and that should work, shouldn't it? I assume it's gonna work. Let's just check any questions. Nope, nobody has any questions. Alright, cool. So back to this. Then now done name weights. We can now do average weight and total weight, right? Average weight and total weight times screen. Yes, again. This one here will need to make a function for. And this should not exist. We should not be able to set the average weight outside the class. So we'll just delete that. Because, yeah, so setting the average weight doesn't make sense. Right, so let's make a quick function here to help us with life. Let's comment that so we get rid of that error. You read only or write only? Ah, right, yeah, so I have to make this read only. Try to do the read only again. Is it not to validate? Not a must to validate weight. Or in my example, no. If you know how, please do. Yeah. So let me just check up something quickly. I don't think you guys have learned read only, so don't choose this. But it's important that so essentially that I use it here because I want to do the set function. Actually, let me just do the set function. We'll just not use it. How's that? We won't set anything. We'll ignore this. That's what we'll do. That's bad programming practice. Essentially, you should know the difference between read only and write only and stuff like that, right? But I don't think you guys have done that, and I don't want to jump ahead of the lecturer. That's the only reason I am not going to do that. So I needed to go check your lectures to see if you guys had done that yet. So essentially, what we're going to have here now is we're going to do a get total first. As we mentioned before. And so this is going to be private. A help of function. Yes, please speak about your question.
Okay, so the instances of the class, it's the ones that have an underscore, and then when you set in the properties, they don't have an underscore. Like your underscore weight index, it doesn't have a underscore. It only has an underscore on the return and also on the yeah.
Okay. So it has an underscore on the return. What do you mean by that?
Yeah. I mean, so I from where from the instances, from the classes, right? You have to have an
Yeah.
underscore, and then on the description of the property method, like your public property weight, it
Yeah.
doesn't have to have an underscore there. It has to have
So
an
it should have
underscore
it somewhere here.
yeah, on the get where there's get and then return. Yeah, there, and yeah.
Oh, so as you can see, right, this doesn't throw me any errors right now. So we'll test
Okay.
this out and we'll see if your underscore thing really matters, right? Or if it's just a naming convention Mr. Van
Oh,
Westhuizen and Mr. Carshall taught you, right?
yes, yeah.
So it could be just a naming convention. I don't want to go against them. I know they like to do their naming conventions in specific ways.
Okay.
But if this works, then you know that the underscore is just about naming, and you are free to change your naming convention as you please.
Okay, thank you, sir.
No problem. All right. That's double. That's the function. Right, and what we're gonna do here is we're gonna sum up the total. No. One of the things that we should have done here first was the constructor, right? As well. Oh, we don't really need the len, but it's nice to make your code readable. It's really nice to make your code readable. Here we go. Private in weeks as integer, right? Make our lives a little bit easier. And there's no semicolons in Visual Studio. And we'll loop through these and get the total weights. Oh, well, actually, what happened here? All right, sorry about that. It seems that Visual Studio kicked me out for a little while. I'm back though. Essentially, what we're going to do is we're going to say total weights. One is the smallest weight, essentially, right? So what's the biggest weight? The biggest weight will be weights of length, right? Hope you guys know dot length. So, right. Oh, what is this? What's happening here? What's wrong? Oh, I spelled it wrong. All right, so there we go. We've got the total. And return total. Well, this total one, so we don't have any overshadowing. You'll figure out what overshadowing is very soon. Aren't the NW and NC declared in the form, or is it up to us as the coder? I made a copy of it, right? So essentially, this copy of number of weeks belongs to the class. And why would I do that? Is it necessary? No, it's not necessary. And maybe they'll tell you you shouldn't do it. But essentially, I'm doing it just for convenience because I like coding quickly, where you could literally go, well, let's go number of weeks, right? Right, number of weeks here because it makes it more readable, right? I don't have to comment what's going on here. You know that I'm going to the end of the week. There's debate whether this should be number of weeks minus 1 or not. I think we'll leave it like this. If we get an error, we'll sort it out. Right? Yeah. So it's up to you essentially whether you make a copy of that. Sometimes they'll say don't make any extra stuff, right? So in your test, you might get something that says, please don't add any extra properties to the class. Then you can't add it, right? Because then they're giving you a limitation. So please read your practical. Your practical should tell you what's going on, right? So here, what we're going to say is with them total 2 as double, right? We're going to say, well, total 2 should be equals to get total weight, right? That should give us the total weight. And we can return total 2 divided by, here's that catch that I spoke about. Remember, n weeks minus 1. If you can tell me why n weeks, why I use n weeks minus 1 here. Why is this? This is a double. This is a double. Oh, up here. Right, so if you can tell me why I go number of weeks minus 1, I will try and figure out a way to tell one of the lecturers that you deserve some kind of bonus, hopefully. So if you know, now is the time to talk to me. Nobody? Does nobody have an answer? So could you please explain the total 1 function? All right, sure. Essentially what I'm doing is I'm saying, this is the last one that we got in the array, right? This is the very last one. If the array is of size 8, right? Oh, well, actually it's minus 1 here. So this is the last one we've got in the array. This is the absolute 100% last thing that we've got in the array, right? No, it's not. It's not minus 1 here. I keep getting confused between them. Wait, let's think about it. If I make an array of size 8, there are 7 spots essentially. So it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And index 7 is the one that so this should be minus 1. Yes, that should be minus 1. That should be minus 1, yeah. So essentially, when the last weight that I give, like let's say I gained 50 kgs, right? Then if I constantly gained weight throughout the lockdown period, what's going to happen is I'm going to go 20 in the first week, 10 in the second week, 13 in the third week, and all of those together, 20 plus 10 plus 30 is just going to be 60 kgs, right? Which means I could just go, let's say I started at 100, and at the end of the 4 weeks, I'm at 160. I can just go 160 minus 100, and I'll get 60, right? Does it make sense to you? Why I do this? Yes, it does. All right, cool. That's one way to do this. If you went the other route and you looped through everything and you said the first one minus the second week and the second week minus the third week, I mean the third week minus the second week, or whatever the case might be, however you decided to get your total there, your marker should have marked you correctly if it worked. Okay. Essentially that's probably the more accurate way to do it, because there could be some months where I lose weight, right? And then in that month my weight gain should be negative. So it's really up to you, but just for time I'm doing this. Oh well, actually you're right. Let's do it the more correct way. Let's say I lost some weight in some weeks because I decided to gym for that week or something like that, right? So we'll go for zero equals no 1 to x x into here is going to say total plus equals weights. Second week minus the first week, right? So it's going to be x plus 1, right? Minus weights x. And here we're going to say, well, let's go to the second last one. All right, that should be doing. So what? Now let's explain this code to ourselves. Looping through minus each week with the week before and total. This is a perfectly okay way to calculate the total average, the total weights that we've done, right? And as you can see, this creates the average weight. So do I really need the get average weight function? In the way I did it right now, no, this is one line of code. Why would I make a whole function for one line of code, right? That doesn't make sense to me. But we can make a whole version of this for total, which we're going to do now. Total. Get and set the total. Because you guys haven't learned to read only yet. So total is going to just be, there we go. Done. Oh, we need to rename this. Let's rename it. Oh, total is done. So let's see what we've got. Weights, we've got average weight, we've got total weight. And number of weeks, what are we going to do? What we're going to do with number of weeks is we're going to do it in our constructor. Right? Because the minute you build the constructor, that's what we said in our design, right? We said here, the constructor should take in number of weeks. So we'll just do it from our constructor because we're really cool like that, right? We're really cool like that. And constructors in Visual Basic go like this. Go public sub new. Some stuff here. It's going to be in weeks. And this is actually a void, so there's nothing at the end, right? So what we do here is first we read them, the weights, number of weeks, and weeks. We set in weeks the actual big one, which is private. What did I call it? In capital weeks. Right here we want the capital W, and that should be fine. Ta-da! We've got our thing that does everything. So we've got the constructor. We've got all of our property methods that matter. We've got one for name, age, one for each weight. We've got one for average weight. We've got one for total weight, and we've got one for number of weeks, which is our constructor. Because you don't get the number of weeks and you don't set the number of weeks, you should know that as the programmer of the form, right? Does anybody have questions about the class and why I structured it like this? Absolutely nobody. Okay, if you do have a question, please speak.
So, okay,
Yes.
so from line 67 downwards. Oh yeah, I don't understand like the total weight, like how you did it. Can you re-explain it again if you don't mind? Line 67.
Okay, sure. Sorry, I was just taking a bite of my cereal there. I'm a bit hungry. Here we go.
Yeah.
So line 67, we're getting the total weight, right? So essentially what we want to do is we want to say that the total weight is the total of week 2 minus week 1, and then week 3 minus week 2, and then week 4 minus week, because think about it, right? What we're getting is the total weight gain, right? So essentially this is this was labeled a bit badly. So I think that's where the confusion comes in, right? That's the total weight gain that's happening here. What we're seeing is how much how much you gained each week, right? So to check how much you gained each week, I have to check the difference between the weight at the end of the week minus the weight at the start of the week, right? So for example, if at the beginning of the week you weighed 50 kgs and at the end of the week you weighed 51 kgs, right? I know that you gained 1 kg of weight. Now to get that answer, I'm gonna have to say 51, which is week two's answer, minus week one's answer of 50. Right? Does that make sense?
Yes, that is why you said +1 in the the
Yes.
maximum. Okay, so
yes. So essentially, this is gonna be week 2 when this one is week 1. This is gonna be week 3 when this one is week 2, and this one is gonna be week 4 when this one is week 3, until such point that we get to number of weeks minus 2.
Okay, sir.
No problem. I hope that helps you a little bit.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
No stress, no stress, no stress. I assume none of you have come up with this answer yet, even though I've explained the total function. So I'll give you about a minute to think about that, because that's really important. Like why the number of weeks minus 1, why we use that. I don't know if I said it. All right. So I guess nobody has that answer yet. Even if I did say it, you guys weren't listening well enough to tell it back to me now. That's unfortunate. All right, let's go use our class. Again, as usual, option statements. I'm lazy, so I'm going to copy and paste because this takes way too long. I'm liking. That was not the right way to do it. Let's go there. Here's up. Right. So option statements are on. We have a form load. What do we want to do right now? We want a grid. We want a button to set up to capture the information. So basically number of weeks and number of clients. And we want one button to essentially get us the information for each person. Right, that's really important. Once we've got the information for each person, then we can go ahead and display stuff. So we need a button for display. So that's 4 buttons in total, right? So far. Let's go make those buttons quickly. Tools. And we'll go for button. Right, and we'll plug some buttons down here. Let's go 1. C control. And then we need a UJ grid. Okay, there we go. Let's go and rename everything. Can you please explain lines 77 to 83 in the class? What is the difference between instantiating and initializing? Ooh, that's a difficult question. That's a really difficult question. So let's start off with your question on the lines. Essentially, you want to line 77, explain line 77, 83 in the client, I'm assuming. Right, so 77 to 83, right? What is essentially happening here is I've created a property to return the total value, the total that is set here. But what I'm doing is I'm calculating it every time. Oh, you know what? I forgot to set it. That was a good catch, actually. Nice done. We've got something called total top of our class here. That's where it's called. It's just total weight, right? So we're gonna call this total weight. Right, total weight, and we're going to set that equal to total 2. Done. Okay, cool. I fixed my error. I'm happy now. All right. So total 2, right? I created a temporary variable for total 2. I then set it to get the answer from the function of get total weight. I set the actual global variable of total weight to the total 2, and then I return total 2. That is essentially what's happening in 977 to 83. If I'm not answering, please explain n weeks is equal to n weeks by 91. Oh, yes, this is actually not correct. This is because Visual Studio is not case sensitive, right? So to sort this out for now, I'm going to go do n weeks 1, right? And I'm going to go n weeks 1 here. And this should auto set itself up. Here we go. Ta-da. And now it works, right? So now you know n weeks is the global variable that we had at the top of the class, and n weeks 1 is the parameter that we had here. This here should be n weeks 1. The reason that should be n weeks 1 is because n weeks doesn't have a value until after that line, which is really important. So that was a good catch again. All right. So any more questions about the class, or are we going back to the form and renaming the buttons? You know what, actually, we're not going to rename the buttons. That's going to take way too long, and we don't have that much time left. So the first button is going to be get, let's make some global variables here. We'll call them number clients in weeks. Right, then we're going to say private in weeks. So actually, you know what? Let's make it two things at once. Because I'm lazy. All right, now we've got number of weeks and number of clients, and we can now call upon them with some value. Ooh, wrong side. 99 as integer. Oh yes, that would make sense. Essentially, you can have them as double. It's just going to complicate your life. So it's a good catch. Thank you. Here we're gonna have these. Tell me number under the wrong sub. Oh, this isn't the form load. So I didn't name my buttons. I can do whichever one wherever I really want. So I'm just gonna do this in the form load and show you guys how painful it is marking it when you do it in the form load. Because I've seen a lot of people put this in the form load still. Number of weeks. And you shouldn't do this, essentially. Is that not supposed to be under the button? It is supposed to be under the button. Right? Some people who do this, and you're going to see why it's not cool. Right? Why it's not cool to do this in the form load. My spelling is not good today. Right? So here's why you don't do that in the form load. You see, there's no form. It's just random pop-up asking me questions. It's a bit weird. So we don't do that. So yes, you guys are 100% correct. This should be in a button. I'm going to copy and paste it into the button. The next button is going to talk about getting this button in it. Oh yes, somebody asked me what's the difference between initialize and instantiate, right? Okay, instantiate means create, like in my mind, when I instantiate a variable, it means I create space in that variable to store things. So when I instantiate an object, what I'm doing is in memory, I am creating space for that. When I initialize something, I am getting it ready to start working. Okay, so you initialize the values. Like here, this is part of initialization. That's why we use init here. We get this and then we sometimes redim. And so that's instantiation. Redimming is instantiation. Let me Google this just to make sure I'm not feeding you lies. Yes, it's okay to Google things when you don't understand. Just make sure your whatever you get, whatever you get is essentially a good it's essentially a good answer. Like it agrees with what the academy teaches. Let's include private clients as clients. I don't understand what you mean. Client 10 as client. I didn't make an array. This is just the number of clients. That's what I think. All right. So I'm still trying to figure out. Oh, okay. Actually, it's much more simple than that, and I think I wasn't actually misleading you, but there's a simple answer to this scenario, right? The simple answer to initialize and instantiation. Initialize is where you set an initial value, and instantiate is where you create an instance. Right? So instantiate has instance in the name. I should have thought of that. Honestly, I should have thought of that. Really, that was a bit weird of me. My bad. It's early on a Saturday. I haven't had my breakfast. Please don't blame me. So at line 10, when you're talking about that, you literally are talking about the array, right? And that's not really necessary right about now. What's this happening? Printed to the faculty and device. Oh wait, that was a chat from Mr. Koff. I'll deal with that later. Hopefully he doesn't see this. See that I said I'm gonna deal with it later. But yeah. At line 10, you must include private clients as clients. You must include that in that line of code. Yes, you do have to include that line of code. That line of code because you do need an array of clients. That is true. We need an array of clients, right? But what I had up there was an integer, so make an array of clients. So what are we gonna get? Private clients. Clients. One. Yes, I call it client one because I'm weird like that. So there we go. Now we have an array of clients. And at some stage we'll have to redum that. So let's call button 2. Let's deal with button 2 and we'll say, yeah, we will do redumming and stuff. Right? So yeah, we're gonna say, well, button 1 should be clicked first, button 2 should be clicked afterwards, and we're gonna redum clients. Redum clients. And we're gonna redum it num clients. But at the same time, we need to for loop through everything. We need to redum the inside stuff. We redim it. This is not a record structure. All we're gonna do is gonna call the constructor. We're gonna say, oh well, clients X equals new client 1. And in here, what we're going to do is going to drop and X because we're cool like that. And look, we've used our constructor. That's the first thing we created in our, that's the last thing we created in our class, and we're using it first. How cool is that, right? So let's just let's call this resize initial array. Doesn't this look so much nicer than going client dot weeks and then redimming that whole thing? This looks so much neater, doesn't it? This is why classes are superior record structures, in my opinion. In my opinion, fives. If you really like record structures, then you do that, bro. Oh, sister, or anything else, essentially. Resize, and here we're doing is, here we are instantiating, right? Instantiating clients. Yeah, right, cool. Now we've got some clients. What else do we need to do? We need to get their information from people. Actually, you know what I think? I'm gonna put this in the other button. I like it being here. I'm gonna do it here. And in here, what we're going to do is we're going to get all of the stuff. So we are going to do a for loop. I haven't done this in ages. Yes, please unmute your mic and speak to me.
Okay, so I wanted to understand something, sir. For your first button, sir, is it okay to call it button instantiate because it initializes and instantiates your code?
Okay, that's a really good question. I see a lot of people with button init and button instantiate, right?
Yes, sir.
What I think you should do there is I think you should call it button setup because your customer who's using this, they don't know what code is, right? So they don't know what's happening in the background. They don't know what magic is happening behind the form. All they know
Okay.
is that they need to set up something. So it's rather say setup. I'm sure a layman doesn't know what initialize or instantiate.
Okay, so would you like say if maybe in the exam or in the prep I say instantiate or I say initialize, would you penalize me like for just now as a student? Can you penalize me for that for naming my
I
my
I can actually penalize you. It's 100% within my power because you made a user interface that's not user friendly, right? So I'm allowed to do
okay.
that to you. But I have to take off the marks where they should be taken off, and that's probably going to be in the user interface section. Or if there's no user interface section, I'll knock you in coding convention and commenting, right? Your coding
Okay.
style
Oh,
and that stuff.
okay. So it's fine if I can say button setup. Okay, understood.
Yeah, so button setup, that makes more sense. In the test, what I would probably do is I'd say question one setup as my button so that people know to run question one's work to click on the button. But
Okay,
that's
thank
just
you.
me. No problem.
Thank you.
Any other questions like that? That was a really good question. It addressed the problem. We need the name, right? Client side. Clients. Clients. And we like to do cool stuff here, so we're gonna go string client one. Okay, cool. Then we can do age. Alright. Actually, let's be really cool about this. Display the name. I'm just doing it in the question section, so you guys know how to display the name in the other section. Essentially, and there should be an apostrophe there. Okay, cool. You know English. It's 1 second. Just gonna check what. Oh, my bad. Sorry about that. What I was trying to tell you guys is if you guys have like a maths tut or anything now, then you're welcome to leave and catch the video later. I hope I am answering your questions adequately. If you I didn't answer your question, please let me know so then I can basically ask Mr. Cottrell or Mr. Van der Westhuizen to address them again in the tutorial or in the next lecture. You're welcome to just like give me a message and just be like, hey, this is what you didn't answer for the session and I have to go now. So you can do that. Yeah, so I'm going to be a bad person and I'm going to resize the grid here. And if I did a design, which I didn't do, if I did do a design, I know exactly what I needed to display. And I wouldn't have to go back and look and waste time, right? But I now have to look and waste time. So where is the bracket? It's in Google. Right, and in Google, this one. Right, there we go. So a local gem is approached to top and developers. And here we need to display the name of the client, the weight of each for each week, as well as the average weight and the total weight, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to model it as clients go on rows, right? So number of rows should be number of clients plus some number. So let's say number plus 1, 2, just for safety's sake, right? So 1 dot rows equals to n clients plus, right? Just for safety's sake. You should rename your UJ grid. Please don't do this in your next practical. If somebody does this and they tell me they saw it on the Saturday class, or if one of the assistants tell me that they did it because they saw it in the Saturday class, I'll shout at you guys next week. Although it's not gonna impact you guys. Shouting at you online does really nothing. All you have to do is mute me. But yeah, so what we have to do is it's the weights for each week as well as average and total weight gained, right? So that's average and total is +2. The naming column is +3, and so we know that we should have at least 3 extra columns, right? So what we're going to do is going to say UJ grid 1 dot calls equals to n weeks. I'm going to do +4 just for good measure so that we don't get a out of bounds nonsense thing. That's not cool. I don't like those. All right, so now let's label and display, right? We have a lot of the information that we can display. You guys do know that, right? By now we've got all of the information we really need. Oh wait, let's make a displayer class. Let's make a displayer function. That's really cool. Make our lives easier, right? Windows is gonna say it's private sub and take yes string access all, which is an integer. Don't make that mistake. Minus integer, right? Here we're gonna say UJ grid 1 dot row equals to rows are actually the y values. So grid 1 dot call is x and grid 1 equals. Right, cool, we've got a display function. Now we can actually display things quite easy and nice. What I am going to do that you should probably not do is I'm going to copy this. Right. Because if it worked for input, it can work for output. It's not the best way to look at things, but if it works, right? Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to say displayer, and the first thing we're going to display is names, right? So what the names should be always displayed on the column 0 at some index. So we can say it's going to be the y value of 0, but it has an x value of x, and the actual text should be the client's text, right? So client's text name, right? That should be the first thing we send. Then we're going to send it's x. The x value is going to be 0. Wait, the y value, yeah, the x value is going to be 0. The y value is going to be x. Now that's a bit confusing. I should have swapped these around. That's how we do name. Now we do the weeks, right? So you can copy this, I guess. Sounds good. And around here, what we'll do is we'll go C string. Now, where should this be displayed? It should be displayed in the corresponding column to things. So the x value shouldn't change, but the y value should change. I mean, the x value should change because it's going across the columns. But its value in the row has not changed, right? This x and y is really getting annoying. But yeah, so that should essentially do some cool stuff. Let's see. Let's test out our wonky code here. Number of weeks ago, 3, 2, right? 1, 2. Client's name 1 is C1. Age is 22. Rate on week 100. 150 pages in a week. That's a record. Client's name is C2. C2 age is 56. I'm going to ask for gender here. That's an important one. That's what's missing. Right, well, now you know in your code you can ask for gender also. You know how now. I've shown you how to do it. Please C2's weight on week 1. 7, 79, 81. Oh, doesn't display. Is this button 3? Yeah, button 3 should display. C2. Oh, why does it display C2 there again? I named them both C2. That's weird. Yeah, but these are the right things. 77, 79, 81, 100, 150, 160. So display name. What did I do wrong here? Under button 1, why don't we set the grid? Sure. I guess we could do that. Because it's all you have the information, right? So let's go and set the grid there. If that's your preference, we can. And okay, so this essentially should display some cool stuff here. Now we need to get the total. And you know what's really, really cool? Oh wait, I should actually label each. Um, I'm getting a quick call. I'm so sorry. I'm just gonna take this. I know this is terrible. I'm just gonna tell them not to call again. 1 second. All right, sorry about that. So we're gonna say week plus number, and it's going to be, and this is the x value, if I'm not mistaken, right? See what we said here? It was x and then y, right? So x is going this way, and x is what's changing. X is what's changing. So x is going to be y, and this is going to be 0, right? Hopefully that helps things out. I hope that helps label the grid a bit better. Yeah, so now we can do the total stuff, right? Doing the total is a tad bit slightly different, but it shouldn't be a problem. We can do a total inside the loop because it's a total per client, right? So now we're displaying, sure, what we're displaying first. We're displaying a string, but it has to be a string. It's going to be a value that we're converting to string from a doubles. That's why I just put the C string down immediately. It's going to be clients x dot weights dot get average weight. So let's start with total actually. Total, right? That's essentially what we're working with here, and the total is going to do some stuff and display it. But where are we going to display it? Now, if I remember correctly, the x value is going to be num weeks plus 1, right? And the y value would be x value. That's it, ideally what we're doing for the total. Now we can do the same thing for the average, and should be average. And it should just be 2 here, that should be fine. And then we can label these two things by just going like that. Really, you should label first, but it's gonna happen so quickly, nobody's gonna know. So here where x, the x value is the number of rows, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put it to the labeling row, and instead of displaying that, we're gonna say, well, this is the average. What did I do? Yeah. Oh, I see string this. That's the problem there. So now obviously we didn't do any coding here. We didn't actually get the total or the average. It's just magically gonna work, right? That's the beauty of classes. So when we do this next time, we're gonna say number of weeks 3 times 2 capture name of client 1. We'll call him C1. This time it's definitely C1, right? C1's age is 88. Weight on week 1, he was 55. He went to 60, 65. Did you see that? That was definitely an average of 5 every week. Right, so C2, right? What's C2 age? She's 22. Oh, she's 77 on week 1. She goes to 87, 2, and 97 on week 3. That's an average of 10. Right? So here we've got C1 and C2. That displays the name of the clients. We have week 1, week 2, week 3, right? We have 55, 60, 65, 77, 87, 97 as an average of 10. The total weight gain is 5. What? That's not right. We've got a problem there. All right. But the average here is 2.5. It divided by 2 and this divided by 2, which is actually the correct way to calculate the average there. The problem lies in our total calculation. We need to figure out why this is going wrong. All right. So let's go and debug our total calculation. But essentially, you guys see now that that works. The labeling was correct, and the there's a spare row here, and there's a spare row here and a spare column. I think that was a big deal. It makes it look like there's space for more data. Essentially, yeah. So that's that. Let's go and debug our total calculation. The total calculation happens in here, and it's this cool stuff that we do here. So we take it and we divide it by 2 here. We call get total. So the problem probably lies in get total. What's happening here is we are probably not going. Let's debug it properly. Let's actually put a breakpoint in and figure out what went wrong. Let's show you guys that. Even tutors, assistants, and sometimes lecturers need to debug their work. We said it's 3 weeks. Clients 2 is going to be C1, C1 age 22, 7, 17, 27. Right, so that average should be 10 because it was 10 a week. Let's see, 2, right? C2's age 55. C2's weights is 100, 200, 300, 100 a week. That's crazy. Yeah, and we should get here, right? So let's look at what we've got so far. Total is 0, right? In weeks is 3. Okay. So what's happening here? We go next. Next, and here we know weight x plus 1 is 17. Weight x is 7. So then total is currently 10, right? And it's done. You see what happened there? The problem is this weeks minus 2. Right? That weeks minus 2 caused the problem there. So now we figured out what our problem was. Because it wasn't looping again, it needs to loop in time. In 3 weeks, there are 2 gains. Right? Did you see we're only getting 1 gain there? Right? That's where the problem lies. And I'm actually pretty confident in that. So I'll show you guys about a debug point. I was hoping somebody would catch that while I was coding, but I guess not. Tell me the number of weeks. We're gonna go 3 again and 2. The reason I use 3 and 2 is so that if I ever read them incorrectly or resize the grid wrong, it'll show me. If I use 2 and 2, I'll never know. Right? See 1, 22, 5, 65, 75, C2, 78, 100, 200, 300, right? And let's look what we got. Yeah, total weight gain is 20. Does it make sense? 55, so 75 minus 55 is 20, right? This guy definitely gained 200. Average is 10 a week. Average 100. Boom! We got the averages and total done. Sorry about that. Blackboard seems to do that every now and then. I have no idea why. Right. So now the last thing that we have to display is essentially a total of totals. So we have to get the total of everybody's weight gain and then divide it by the number of weeks and then divide it by the number of customers, right? Well, if we think about this mathematically, right, then the total number of clients divided by the total weight divided by the number of weeks, right? Don't we do that when we do the average weight per person, right? Can't you just do that? Isn't multiplication and addition commutative, right? So if you don't know what commutative means, I'll show you that it's exactly the same thing now. I'm not gonna make another. Well, we can do it in the next button, I guess. Don't I have a spare button left? I have button 4. All right, this one we'll do is we'll calculate. Let's just make sure we're doing the right thing. Always make sure you're doing the right thing. Right, this is in actual year. Yeah, what do we display? Should calculate and display the average weight gained for all clients combined. Right? So the quickest way for me to do this is a weight gain for all clients combined. Yeah, so the average weight gain for all clients, the quickest way is essentially to take the weight gain, the average weight gain per client, add them all together and divide them by the number of clients, right? That's the easiest way that I could think of doing this. And it is 100% foolproof mathematically, and I'll explain why now. So essentially what we're going to do is let's dim ourselves and have a total, right? Total, and let's double equals for loop. One, two times x. I don't know why that indentation is broken. Oh, it's because of the semicolon. Okay, so now we're looking to the clients and we want to get the total. So we're gonna say total equals clients dot average weight, right? That gives us the total, and now we have the average, which is just total divided by number of clients, right? That's the easiest way to do this, and we're going to display it on the row, on the final row. And so if you look at where we redommed, the final row should be n clients plus 1. No, but no, why don't we set the grid? Somebody ask another question. Am I missing a question? No, it doesn't seem like it. All right, cool. So let's just display us some cool stuff here. Let's just use one of these. What we're doing here is we're saying, well, actually we can label it. We can label it. It's not a problem. We'll say average for all clients. It's going to be, this is the y value. Y value is going downwards, right? So is it the y value? Let's go check. It is the x value, not the y value. The x value should be 0. The y value should be n clients plus 1. Right, and average for all clients have to label to display it, and it's going to be 1 and 76. Why did you say clients plus 1? Because number of clients would be the last. Like, do you remember it was clients? We had client 1 and client 2, and 2 was actually the. It's just for safety's sake. And plus 2, I mean, why did I say? Oh, you're talking about when I redommed. Line 76. Yeah, line 76 is, oh, so around line 76. 78. Yeah, it was just for safety's sake. It's just me being making sure that I don't bomb out the program by essentially making the grid too small. And in case I was lazy and I want to display things in the grid like how I'm doing now. Right, in here, what we're going to put is we're going to say the string. In the string, we're going to say total divided by n clients. Ta-da! This is the whole practical done. Right? 3, 2, C1, 2, 25, 35. Please enter client 2's name, C. Oh, call him C4 for fancy today. So 78. He started out at 400, 500, 600. Right, and he's a big boy. He's a very big man. All right, we've got 15 400, 500. So this guy clearly has an average of 100 in each. This one has an average of 10. The total should be 10, 20, so it should be 20. This one should be 200. Let's check. 20, 200, 20, and 200, and 10 and 100. Nice. Now let's do push button 4. Average is 55. Now let's make sure of that quickly. Average is 10 plus 100 divided by 2. That works. So everything works, right? Now, essentially, what you could have also done is you could have said 220 divided by the number of weeks, which was going to be 3, minus 1, which was going to be 2. So divided by 2, which is 110, divided by the number of clients, which is 2, and you're still going to get back to this answer. Because maths is commutative, right? That's the cool thing about maths, is you can do your multiplications or your divisions where, well, division is not commutative. It doesn't go both ways, but it is. Sorry about that. But yeah, essentially, your totaling and stuff it works out like this. Does anybody have any questions? Yes, please speak to me.
Okay, so with regards to the total combined, in a way we did it in the text box, so is it fine? Because I see that you displayed it in the grid.
Yeah, you want to display it in a text box. I just did it in a grid because I find it easier.
Okay, so because essentially they tell us where they want it to be displayed. So in this instances, they didn't specify where they want it to be displayed. So either way, it's fine, whether it's in the text box or whether it's in the grid.
Yes, whether you do it in the grid or in the text box, that's 100% fine, as long as I can read your labels. So maybe resize the grid, the box size here, so that I can tell this is for all clients.
Okay.
And yeah, so as long as I can read your label and I can tell what this value means, I'm happy.
Okay, so our test, our exam, so they are even practicals, they are going to specify where they want it to be displayed, and if they didn't specify, it's fine to display it wherever you are comfortable with, and wherever that you can find it, where you find it easy.
Yes, if they don't display it, is better for you to do it where you find it easier. But ideally, you should have skipped a line here, right? So you should have skipped a line and then go to the next one and say average full client. Okay. Why do I say you should skip a line? It's because this is still in week 1, right?
Yes, yeah.
So you don't want people to get confused and think that this is the average for all clients for week 1.
Yes, yeah.
Right? So that's really important.
Thank you, sir.
No problem. Does anybody else have any questions, or am I allowed to go and get my breakfast eaten? Thank you guys for coming today. It was pretty chilled. You guys had some really good questions. Some stuff that you made me even think. So if ever I'm in a job interview and I get that question, I will think of you guys and I will appreciate you guys. You guys are great. If you have any further problems with regards to UML or whatever, please let me know so that I can essentially send Mr. Cottrell or Mr. Van der Westhuizen a message and tell them X, Y, and Z is bothering the students. Please, can you go over it again? Right? Hopefully my UML guide thing is a little bit all right. If it's slightly wrong, please follow what the lecturers say instead. That's really important. That is a disclaimer I'll put at the end there. If anything I do here is slightly wrong, do what the lecturers say, right? Do 100% always do what the lecturers say, okay? What they say is essentially what goes. They are the bosses. I just am showing you the principles of coding here. So I'm teaching you how to develop an algorithm, how to figure out where things go, how to do designs. I'm not teaching you how to basically answer the practical 100%. I'm trying to teach you more how to approach the practical, how to code through it, how to do it all in basically 2 hours, right? Essentially, we did a design, I explained, I answered questions, and I did the whole practical in 2 hours. So if you can do that at some stage, you're really good at this, and you should be 100% fine for your practical semester test. All right, I think that's it for me. Thanks for coming. Have a great weekend. Please study hard, do your best, and work hard on the next week's practical. Remember to use the assistance lab, the virtual one. Bye, guys.